The iPhone X took the world by storm in 2017 and gave iPhones their first major redesign since the iPhone 6 that came 3 years prior. Hey, how's it going? I'm Josh from 91 Tech, and today we're going to be taking a look at the iPhone X and seeing how it holds up in 2019. Is it still worth buying? I personally bought the iPhone X at launch in the November of 2017 and was extremely excited to get my hands on it. It was one of the first bezel-less devices out there and brought the infamous notch that would go on to be copied by basically everybody in 2018. The X was a really solid phone with very few drawbacks, except for that $1,000 price tag. But here we are, well over a year later, and the X doesn't cost nearly as much anymore, so could it be worth it? Especially over the newer iPhone XR or XS? Well, yeah, it could, in certain cases I think. If you're wanting to buy a brand new, I'd pass. Certain carriers still have them in stock, but they're disappearing, and I think if you're willing to pay what they're asking you, you might as well just go up a little bit to the iPhone XR or XS. However, if you're buying used, the iPhone X can be a very appealing purchase at around $700 US on eBay.com, if not cheaper. While the iPhone XR is only going to be a little bit more than that brand new and will be a bit faster, the X has a much better display and is going to be the more premium phone overall. So if you're the type of person to buy used, go for it. Otherwise, well, I'd maybe reconsider. I'll drop a link in the description below to my iPhone buying guide for anyone who wants to explore their options further. That being said, for those who want more information about the iPhone X, let's continue. As mentioned before, the design is really something special and is unlike anything Apple had ever done prior, kind of. We got a glass back and stainless steel frame, making it feel reminiscent of the iPhone 4 and 4S, and of course the all-screen display minus the notch. The notch garnered a lot of criticism, as does anything Apple does, but I think it was the right decision, and it's easily the best implementation of a notch out there right now, although you could argue for the Samsung Galaxy S10 with a little punch-out if you consider that a notch. Design-wise, the X is almost exactly the same as the year younger XS, except for the placement of a couple antenna bands. With the bezel-less screen, we lost the home button, which meant no Touch ID. Apple got around this with Face ID, a worthy alternative, and one you'll get used to quite quickly. I'm not sure if it's quite as fast or consistent as Touch ID, but it's more than good enough, and personally, I like it better. The iPhone X has a lot of nice features like wireless charging, IP67 water resistance, fast charging if you buy the charger separately. There's a lot that makes life with the X just a bit nicer. It's a great phone, even if Apple isn't selling it anymore, and it's not that much different from the XS if you're kind of torn between the two. A pretty massive spot in improvement for the XS though is the camera. Not to say the X has a bad camera because it's still great, but Apple really did improve things with its newer model, and I think that's probably the biggest point of difference between these phones. In all honesty, I'd say you should be more than okay with the really great 12 megapixel iPhone X main sensor, as well as the telephoto lens that allows for 2x zoom and portrait mode shots that look like this. Video from the X also looks really good, shooting up to 4K at 60 frames per second, something even the newest Pixel can't do. I'll show some photos in a moment, but first let's briefly cover the front-facing camera. It has 7 megapixels and will take a great selfie. It can also take portrait selfies, although this seems to fail more times than it actually works. This photo example here is not of me, but my friend. One day, I guess last year, he decided to spam my iPhone X with selfies of himself in portrait mode, but guess who got the last laugh? But anyways, now I'll put up some more photo examples for you to see for yourself. Battery life on the iPhone X is probably one of the lower points. It's not bad per se, but it could be a whole lot better too, and was my biggest complaint throughout the time I had it. It isn't too small at 2,716 milliamp hours, and it should get you through the day, but if you use the phone really heavily, you might need to keep a charger nearby. Spec-wise, the iPhone X is still one of the fastest phones on the market, with many brand new Android phones still managing to lag behind. It has Apple's A11 Fusion chip and 3GB of RAM, and runs literally anything like a champ. Social media, gaming, and so on and so forth, all is going to be great on the iPhone X, and you aren't going to have any issues. iOS 12, if anything, has made it faster than than ever, and hopefully that's a trend that'll continue. We'll hopefully see full support and updates for the 10 at least until late 2023, if not longer. This is of course assuming Apple keeps up their trend of supporting their phones for at least 5 to 6 years. In 2019, you're obviously not going to have many issues with using the iPhone 10. In fact, I'd say you'll have none. It's only a bit over a year old, and it's still a really solid device. The main detraction from it is that Apple doesn't really sell it new anymore, although you can still find it from some carriers here and there. Prices really vary wildly on it, but if you find a reasonable deal that you like on contract, then it could definitely be worth a buy. I think the main thing you need to consider is whether or not it's worth buying over the iPhone XR, as the XR has a bit better main camera and is also quite a bit faster. The screen is bigger, but of course worse quality, so maybe go to a store and try them side by side to see which you prefer, but they do tend to go for around a similar price point. Although the 10, from what I've seen, does seem to be a little bit cheaper most of the time. Buying used is also an option with the iPhone 10, and actually not a bad one, as prices are surprisingly reasonable on eBay.com, or I don't know, Craigslist, although that really varies location to location. I've seen, again, quite a few go for around $700, which might seem expensive, but considering they were going for over $1,000 less than a year ago, I don't think it's too bad. Really, at the end of the day, whether or not you buy an iPhone 10 over the XR or XS is really up to you, and depends on what you personally want from your phone. Although before I forget, one thing I will add in, the XR has amazing battery life, and it's going to do way better than the 10 or even XS, so that's worth mentioning. I'll post a link in the description again if you want a more in-depth iPhone buying guide, and that one goes through like every single phone, but for now I think I'm pretty much done here. As someone who owned the iPhone 10 for almost a year, I can honestly say that it's a great phone, and you really won't regret purchasing it if you do. It's more than enough for anybody out there, and is one of the fastest and most premium smartphones even in 2019. Thank you so much for watching. If you found this video helpful or interesting, maybe hit that like button and consider subscribing for more content just like this. You can follow me over on Twitter and Instagram at 91_tech if you want to be a cool person. And with that all being said, I'm Josh from 91tech, and I will see you all next time.